This video brought to you in part by these fantastic sponsors.
Hey guys, what is up and welcome to the channel. I'm the Shotgun Shogun and this is the TSS News Network, and guess what? Our boy Senator Josh Hawley is back in the news. This is the guy, if you're unfamiliar, who wants to ban the sale of loot boxes to children. Now, that sounds perfectly fine. I also don't want children to buy loot boxes because, well, children don't have any money. But one of the things that I pointed out in my previous video is that this is going to have a residual effect most likely on everybody else as we regulate the gacha loot box economy. There's no way, no ifs, ands, or buts that we are going to see some trickle down regulation onto other things. Now, granted, this is just a bill. It was put out. It hasn't been passed. It hasn't been anything like that. However, there is some additional bipartisan support of this bill. It does look like Senators Ed Markey and Richard Blumenthal are on board for this. So this was linked to me by somebody on Discord from The Verge. Bill to ban the sale of loot boxes to children presses forward with bipartisan support. Now, Senator Josh Hawley, Republican out of Missouri, will be formally introducing his bill to ban the sale of loot box to children, and two of his Democratic colleagues have signed on board in this support of this legislation. Now, it's called the Protecting Children from Abusive Games Act. And while I am perfectly on board with kids not buying gacha, not buying loot boxes, this really seems like they're sneaking in a little bit of regulation on loot boxes in general and doing the whole, won't somebody think of the children? And that really bugs me because realistically, trying to pass laws and stuff on this is really skirting the actual issue of parenting. If your kid steals your credit card to buy, V-Bucks or whatever for Fortnite so he can get his cool, dances or whatever, then maybe you need to take a step back and actually decide whether or not you're actually parenting correctly. One of the big things that I've brought up is Japan. Japan has way more loot boxes, way more gacha. Gacha is in everything. I actually think there were places where you could go to eat where your food was gacha. But they don't really seem to have this problem, mostly because it seems like, in Japan, they actually parent their children. And yeah, I mean, if any country in the world is more gacha focused than the United States, it's Japan. And so one of the big things that kind of bugs me about this is the fact that this bill takes the onus of responsibility off of the parent and puts it onto the companies, which now are predatory. Now, don't get me wrong, some loot boxes are absolutely terrible. But again, as I previously stated, no one's holding a gun to your head and telling you that you have to roll gacha. I know plenty of people that are free to play who have money, but they're just like, you know what? I just don't really want to, I just really don't feel like spending money on this gacha game. And really, like, I get it. There's addictive personalities out there. I personally have one, which is why I made this channel, so that I can justify spending too much money on gacha games. That's actually kind of half true, half joke. But anyways, no one's holding a gun to your head and telling you that you have to roll gacha money. So coming in with this is like, you know what? Realistically, a lot of these games already prohibit you from buying stuff if you're under the age of 18, because how are you getting that credit card? You can't get it if you're under 18. Realistically, if they just put a thing on there that says, oh, hey, you have to click this button that says, you're over the age of 18, kids are gonna do that anyways. So I don't really understand what they're trying to get out of this. Now, they did release the whole thing, which I want to do a separate video reading through all of it because it is quite a bit. And I just want to go over this one, and then I'll do like a super dry video where we just go through all of it line by line and read everything that it has to offer. Now, this guy does seem to be very against big tech. And I'm also against big tech like Facebook, Google, Twitter, selling all of your information, stuff like that. But you know what? This line right here was the one that kind of hit it for me. Only the addiction economy could produce a business model that relies on placing a casino in the hands of every child. Baseball cards, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Are you guys fucking kidding me? Like, these things have been around forever. Now, some people will say, yeah, but Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Magic, and baseball all have physical things that you can hold. And I get you. I 100% understand that. But it's still a piece of cardboard that can get ruined, can get damaged, and is actually only worth what somebody else deems it is worth. Magic cards are inherently just cardboard. Now, if somebody wants to pay you $300 for that cardboard, fantastic. Now, when it comes to gacha, I would never be able to get back the amount of money that I have spent on these things. However, when people ask me, like, how do I feel when I tally up how much money I have spent and if I feel any regret for spending that much money, and I look at it as, am I having fun? I could go on a vacation for $3,000. I can't take anything back from that. I'll never get that money back. But was it fun? That's really the big point when it comes to spending on mobile games. Are you having fun? Personally, I feel like if you get enough enjoyment out of it to justify spending what you would spend on a AAA game, and let's be real, most AAA games will give you a weekend of entertainment, then fantastic. You're never really going to get anything back from your AAA game because you're going to take it to GameStop and they're going to give you like $3. Let's be real. So, you know, are you having fun doing whatever you're doing? And that's the real justification for me. Now, they do say the addiction economy, and they're acting like this is a brand new thing. I mean, like I said, we've had baseball cards, Magic cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Tinder eggs, like all of that stuff. Blind boxes have been everywhere. Not only that, but like I said, Japan, way bigger consumer of this than the North American market, and they don't really seem to have a problem. Now, I haven't looked up any studies from Japan or anything like that. Somebody in the comment section will probably, you know, cite, oh, here's a study from Japan that there actually is pretty bad, but I feel like somebody would step in there as well. And it seems really odd that, you know, they wouldn't kind of talk about that because this is nothing new. This is absolutely nothing new. But so let's go into this. Only the addiction economy could produce a business model that relies on placing a casino in the hands of every child in America. I really, really hate this type of rhetoric. Every child has a phone. Every child plays gacha. It's the devil's game. This is just another one of those, like, video games are bad and we're going to market this to people who don't understand video games or self-responsibility, with the goal of getting them desperately hooked. Like, pretty much every single marketing ploy out there. Hey man, you like Jif peanut butter? Guess what? We want to get you hooked on Jif peanut butter so that you buy more Jif peanut butter. Like that. Of course you want to get somebody hooked on your game. Like, that's how you make money. That's super stupid. So anyways, he's worked with, Marky's worked with Hawley before to introduce changes to Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Yeah, okay, this legislation would create an eraser button for parents to remove all their child's data from a related service. Maybe these guys don't remember, but like, once something's on the internet, it's on the internet forever. That's how that works. Like, you can't take things off of the internet, dude. Come on. Today's digital entertainment ecosystem is an online gauntlet for children, Markey said of the Lootbox bill. Inherently manipulative game features that take advantage of kids and turn playtime into pay time, and it should be out of bounds. That's actually a pretty funny line. This takes playtime and turns it into pay time. Oh man, this sounds like somebody who's literally never played an online game before, or they played one of those like super bad Chinese ones that are like a super cash grab. That's just like, hey, you logged in, you want to pay $5? Hey, you want to rename your girl? It's $5. Hey, do you want to make a guild? That's $10. We'll give you some friends for $20. Yeah, that's pretty. This literally sounds like something that somebody who's never even logged into a mobile game before, I was just put out. And I think actually I was reading another article where they had a interview with him, and I want to go over that one too, because I'm pretty sure that he's never played one and his children have never played one. I actually don't think he knows anybody who's ever played an online game. So let's see. Pressure to regulate loot boxes and pay to win mechanics has continued to build over the course of the past few years. Loot boxes and microtransactions have become prominent features in both mobile games and those created by AAA studios like Blizzard and Electronic Arts. Just this week, Nintendo was forced to pull 2 games that contain the features from the Belgium marketplace because they violated the country's own loot box regulations. I'm proud to sponsor this bipartisan legislation to protect kids from predatory gaming apps and hold bad actors accountable for their reprehensible practices, Blumenthal said. Congress must send a clear warning to app developers and tech companies. Children are not cash cows to exploit for profit, because our toy companies definitely haven't been doing that forever. Come on, dude. Yeah, these are like that meme of like old man yells at the cloud. Like, definitely. Yes, my favorite Senator Maggie Hassan is back. Maggie Hassan, I want to know what your noble phantasm is. Please don't let it be bell tolling for the loot boxes. I'm surprised she's actually not co-sponsoring this bill, considering she was one of the ones that wanted to do this last fall. She's probably upset because this guy's getting a little bit more traction, is getting people making videos about him. But let's hop over here to this Kotaku article. I hate like doing Kotaku because I actually think Kotaku is really, really bad. But so here we go. This one is from last Tuesday. So this actually, so this is the interview with Josh Hawley. So first of all, I'm curious, do you have any personal stake in this issue? Is this something you've encountered in video games you've played? His response: I have to be honest with you, Jason, I'm not myself a gamer, so it does not stem from my personal experience. It stems from being a parent of 2 little boys and talking to lots of parents, and also hearing, by the way, from a lot of gamers who are concerned about what the C-suite is doing here, basically adding casinos to children's games. So first off, you haven't heard from any gamers, so don't lie about that. Second off, you yourself are not a gamer, so you have no idea what you're actually talking about. And 3, okay, so maybe you heard from some parents that, again, don't really understand video games. Like, most of the time parents don't understand what they're even getting their kids. They put the ESRB rating on things, and parents are just like, Wolfenstein? Yeah, okay, we'll totally get you that one. That one sounds pretty cool. What is that, like a Frankenstein wolf thing? Like, is that what that is, Billy? Is it Frankenstein wolf? That seems like a super fantastic game. So a lot of times parents have no clue what their kids are even playing. They just want them out of their hair for about 45 seconds to a minute and a half, So first off, this is a bill introduced by somebody who has no real relevance on what they're talking about. They've never experienced it, and really saying, we've heard from lots of gamers that, they just fucking hate loot boxes. You probably heard from a bunch of people who didn't get their waifu free to play, by the way. So, of course, you're going to hear, stuff from salty people. Okay, do your kids play games with loot boxes in them? They don't yet. They're 6 and 4, so they're not playing any games at the moment. But I've heard from lots of parents who say that their kids, the stories of all of those sudden charges. What are these weird charges on my card? I thought I already paid for the game. How is it I'm being asked to pay more? Did I authorize this? How did the kid buy it? We've heard from gamers too, talking about ruining the integrity of the game by essentially changing the way the game works. Okay, so if you're a parent and you have no idea what your kid's playing. You have no idea why you're getting these charges, because guess what? You got to set up a credit card on your Google Play Store or your iTunes Store or anything like that. If you are like willfully negligent as a parent, like you got to kind of step back and be like, huh, man, maybe I just can suck at this. Like, this isn't the company's fault. This isn't the fault of people who actually do have more money than they have time. Like, I just had a conversation this earlier today with what actually is pay to win. Is it justifiable for somebody who doesn't have a job and can play 12 hours a day to, make 2 million gold, but like I can go to work and maybe I still like your game. Should I just be able to pay for that? What constitutes a pay to win economy? Not only that, but like, can you still get this without paying the money? Because if you can still get it, then it's not a pay to win. Not only that, but if the game's single player, who fucking cares? Like, what are you winning at? It's a single player game. That would be like saying Fate Grand Order is pay to win. Pay to fucking win what? Like flexing on the internet? Like, okay, cool. I paid to win the flex competition on the internet. Congratulations, me. Number one award. Give me my trophy. Thank you very much. So that's like something that I really, really dislike, is people who don't actually know what they're talking about, but they're using buzzwords like, pay to win, predatory marketing. But inherently, marketing is predatory in general. You are trying to get the most amount of money out of the people that you're marketing to. It's predatory. So not only that, so like this guy doesn't play, his kids don't play, he's listening to salty gamers who, this ruined the integrity of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I grew up in the era where when you bought a game you got everything. I feel like if games are doing microtransactions, they should do things like where World of Warcraft was like, hey, you get a cool mount, hey, you get some skins like in Azure Lane, because those don't give you any sort of advantage. There's some of the games where the skin gives you advantage, but for the most part, it doesn't, and that's a really good microtransaction way for me. But those, World of Warcraft had a monthly subscription, so if you do a monthly subscription, then you kind of have to do that. But then that kills a lot of free-to-play apps because they're kind of relying on those people spending their money for how much they are paying. So on to the next one. You mentioned parents finding charges from their kids suddenly showing up on their credit card bills. That can happen a lot with microtransactions that aren't loot boxes. Why focus specifically on loot boxes? So both loot boxes and pay to win, again, using words that he doesn't actually know, we think the reason why is that it's foremost addiction development. It's an attempt for kids to, as I said before, adding casinos. It's an attempt for kids to, as I said before, adding casinos to games in an attempt to get them hooked, in an example to exploit them. You guys that was the weirdest sentence I think I've ever read. Like, I don't know where those commas came in there. We don't allow actual casinos to exploit children in this way. Why should we allow the gaming industry to do so? These C-suite executives who are driving this trend. Again, games are not marketing to children. Children don't have money. What do they get? Some Christmas money, some birthday money, like mow the lawn money. Like, kids are not the ones that are like holding up the loot box mobile game market. It is middle-aged IT adults that are single, sit at home and want to flex on people in FIFA, or insert random gacha game, or YouTubers that roll way too much gacha and play way too many gacha games and should probably sleep more often. But again, using a lot of words that this guy doesn't actually know what he's talking about. But why focus specifically on children? Adults can also be exploited by these casinos. Adults can for sure be exploited. I think that children, there are a couple of things, as we know, in a variety of contexts, whether it's casinos proper or public health issues, we often look at kids and say they're uniquely vulnerable. What? They don't necessarily know the nature of these microtransactions, being on the lookout for them in the way that an adult might. And while I realize that these microtransactions, these particular kinds, compromise the integrity of the game no matter who is subject to them, there's something I think that's pretty unique to kids, and the addiction angle I think is pretty unique to kids as well. So this is an area too where I think we ought to be able to come together on a bipartisan basis and say, look, when you're directing this sort of pro-addiction activity, pro-addiction behavior towards children or practices towards children, we ought to be able to say no to that. Again, where's your proof that this is being like marketed towards children? Even Candy Crush Saga's marketed to like middle-aged housewives named Karen, not like 10-year-olds. Like 10-year-olds don't want to see that. Like they might play it if it's on your tablet, but again, like the thing comes back to, okay, so it's eroding the integrity of the game. How? What? Why? What? Like, what you're signing up for when you download the game. It literally tells you what it is. If you're an adult, I mean, even a kid, like I said, kids shouldn't be able to get cash. I mean, I guess if they're stealing your credit card, maybe be better parents, but they shouldn't be able to get this in the first place. So a lot of this feels like they're just doing the whole, like I said, oh, think of the kids kind of thing. And yeah, and like, why should you be able to say no to that? Like, this is just how this company is doing it. Like, if there was no market for it, then it would just go out of business, but people like this, I guess. I mean, I do, so, here you have been in conversations with the ESA, the Video Game Lobbyist Group, or any other video game companies about how this might impact them. Yes, we have. Blah, blah, blah. Can you describe the natures, industry? We've been really transparent with them, but there may be some differences in opinions. He's being very diplomatic. Any elaboration? And FIFA would be okay. So yes, any elaboration you can make here. I ask because I pay a lot of attention to these financial calls that these companies have, and EA, for example, is very reliant on the loot box income that comes from FIFA games. A lot of these companies are very reliant on this stuff, and FIFA would indeed be covered by this legislation. To be clear, they've certainly expressed their, shall we say, concern over this legislation, but I think that's probably a good indication that we're getting somewhere. So you wanting to ruin a whole ass company is good at getting somewhere? That seems pretty smug, my dude. Do you think you're getting somewhere? I've seen cynicism from financial analysts, from people in the game sphere, skepticism that this will actually even pass, certainly some concerns that this might just be a publicity stunt. So he replies, I think if they thought this was a publicity stunt, they wouldn't be so concerned. I think the reaction of the corporate lobbyists sort of strongly suggests that they're very worried about this. I think it probably also suggests that they know these practices is not going to stand up to public scrutiny once parents really understand what's going on here, and once the general public understands how these games are being manipulated, how their integrity is being compromised, how basically these companies have found a way to make whole gobs of money without really being upfront about it, and of course the addictive nature of it. I think they're pretty worried that it's going to result in public backlash, and it should. So I actually feel like when it hits the public, companies are going to be like, look, we tell you what the chances are. We literally post that on most things, like most gacha games I play nowadays literally tell you what the odds are. At no point are you actually held to have to roll. No one's holding a gun to your head. I feel like a lot of people, like if they take this publicly, are going to be like, okay, and so what? Like if people want to spend their money, then fucking spend their money. Like, who cares? Why do you care how people spend their money? Like, you say it's addictive, but like, okay, like we can't protect everybody. Like, if you've got an addictive personality and you let this ruin yourself, then I mean, that's kind of on you. Like, it's not really the company again. Like, I'm not over here shilling for this, like any of these companies. I really don't like EA. I don't like a lot of these companies. I think that, they do kind of suck, but you take a lot of the onus of responsibility off of yourself. again, nobody's holding you accountable for this. Japan, I keep going back to Japan. They are huge when it comes to gacha games. And they seem to be doing fine. It's also a completely different culture and everything like that. Maybe we should just emulate that because they seem to be doing pretty okay with that. So public backlash is one thing, but I can't imagine that many of your colleagues in Congress know enough or care about video games. Can this really get traction among those folks? I think everyone, though, cares about the health and safety of children. And this right here is the linchpin of this dude's argument and what he is going to run on. Won't somebody think of the children? Won't somebody think of the children who aren't actually getting parented? Like, what if little Timmy spent $100 and didn't get his PNG waifu that he loves so much, and then he felt bad? Like, that's really what this runs down to. And they also should care about the broader problem of what I've been stated calling the addiction economy, which this is a great example. We see this in other spheres, by the way. We see it in social media. We're seeing it here in the gaming industry, where you've got these corporations finding new ways to try to hook folks, extract personal information from them in the case of social media, extract money from them in the case of games, without regard to what that does to either in the case of gaming the game itself, in the case of gaming the game itself. What? And then to people's general health and well-being. No, they're a fucking company. Like, they don't care about like your mental health and like your well-being. And honestly, like, as a company, I don't know too many companies that sit up at night and go, man, I wonder how Billy's doing. Like, I hope that, I know that our gacha rates are 1%, and he saved up a whole 90 quarts and didn't get Jalter, but I hope he's doing okay, man. Yeah, that's not what a company is out there to do. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I don't necessarily like my companies like putting morality into their games. Companies from a PR standpoint do get a little bit more love for me when they treat me like a person instead of a paycheck, but that, I guess, would also be considered semi-predatory marketing, because now I have an attraction, feelings, fifis for, the company and brand loyalty, stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of concern about that. If they thought it were a publicity stunt, they wouldn't be so concerned. I mean, no, they're probably concerned over people who don't know anything about video games jumping onto like this outrage narrative that these companies are literally holding your kids hostage and forcing them to buy gacha money. So, stealing and selling their body in the streets for Saint Quartz. I'm gonna roll this out here. They're just like going over Republican philosophy. Okay, so your bill also includes pay-to-win games, which are not gambling. They're paying for perks in a game. Similar, though, once again, it's a microtransaction that's not necessarily expected, especially from a child up front, and it is meant to introduce obviously further playing, but also further spending of money, so it works in much the same way. I think the same arguments would apply. That's completely incorrect. So it's a microtransaction. Like I said, when you download any game off of the Play Store, off the App Store, it literally tells you that there are microtransactions in this game. It is very, very upfront about all of that. So, that's kind of rough. Like, that's a rough stance to take, because they literally tell you, they literally warn you. So that's kind of dumb. What else do we have here? What would you say to the video game companies that say, hey, without these things, you're going to cause us to crash? Could this entire industry fold? These are very resourceful people, and I'm sure they can design games that won't rely on gambling directed at children in the center of the game. None of these are directed at children. That's not the core aspect of their games. This guy is just pandering to the uninformed suburban housewife who doesn't understand why her kid is floss dancing, and calling everybody noobs and plebs and calling them pepegas, and putting F in the chat for roast beef at dinner when he actually wanted something, chicken or something like that. So it's a lot of out of touch people. And yeah, this is it's interesting. Like, don't get me wrong, I remember the days of games where you got everything and you didn't have to buy loot boxes. But again, literally no one is forcing you to buy loot boxes. You want to play FIFA, go ahead and play FIFA. You want to play online against other people who want to spend money, guess what? That's what you're getting into. Like, you want to play a gacha game that has PvP, guess what? Like, if you play any other gacha games, you know what you're getting into. There's no hidden stuff there. It's not like, oh, you can be the #1 PvP player in the world free to play. No, you got to be free to play, by the way. And literally that's how the world works, though. Like, people with more money are going to have more advantages. Yeah, I don't know. Like, this seems so silly, but that is just me going over like what the newest stuff is. I wanted to go over this interview. I wanted to go over a little bit of the newer information. I will have a separate video of me literally just reading through this bill because, like I said, it was put out there. So I'm going to get that, and then we will have that. But let me know in the comments. I know last time we had a pretty good discussion. There were quite a few of you that I went back and forth with on things. Again, like, these are my opinions on this as somebody who plays a lot of games that have loot boxes or pay to win gacha, so I'm a little invested in this stuff, and I will continue to cover it. So if you did like this, make sure that you help out the channel by sharing this out, get some more opinions on it. Let's get some comments, some discussion down in the comment section, and as always, just hit that subscribe button, smash that bell notification, drop me a like and a comment, and I will catch you next time. Take it easy. Peace.